Good evening, everyone. I'm Gene Bailey, and you're watching FlashPoint. So glad you're with us tonight. It's been a hard week, but it's been a week that I think every one of us will remember. And I am encouraged by saints all across the nation, saints and conservatives, and what we're seeing. Listen, I want to see you, though, coming up October 2nd and 3rd in Crown Point, Indiana. That's just south of Chicago. So Wisconsin, Illinois, all you guys, where are you at? You need to come. You need to come be a part. We'll be at Livingstone's Church with Pastor Ron Johnson. Those guys are pumped, and we're pumped to be there. Of course, he'll be there. Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith will be there. Pastor Hank Kuhneman, James Ward, Rick Green, Lucas Miles will join us. And then on Friday morning, there will be Flash Talks, and we'll talk more about that as we get closer. But then Friday night, Sean Foyt will be with us to lead worship for an extended worship set. So come be a part. FlashPoint, October 2nd and 3rd, the live event there in Crown Point, Indiana. You can find all the information there at fparmy.com/events, where you can be a part of joining. Listen, the great thing about being at these events is not seeing all of us. I mean, that's great, right? Okay, whatever. But when you get to rub shoulders with other people just like you, that believe like you, that's where the real fun comes in, the joy comes in, and you go back sharper and more encouraged and inspired. And you know, our goal is for you to learn something along the way. So join us coming up right there in Crown Point, Indiana. It's going to be an awesome day. A little programming note, those of you watching on Victory Channel, Spectrum Cable ends this Saturday. So if you're not with us next week, you'll know. If you watch on Spectrum, go to fparmy.com/media right there, or scan the QR code, and you can find all the ways to watch. We are expanding all the time, and we're expanding the FlashPoint television network as well. As we grow, we're going and expanding in all areas. Now listen, you need to spread the word too. So if you want to go see the network on Roku, it's very simple. Those of you that have Roku, you can go search for FlashPoint Television Network. It's right there on Roku. Of course, we're on outlets all over, but you can find out more about it right there at fparmy.com and fptn.com. I don't think they got that ready, but anyway, you can see that everything there as well. All right, let me bring in our first guest tonight, Joe Bob. Joe Bob is the host of Turning Point Tonight. Joe Bob, let's talk about the week you've had. It's been quite an emotional roller coaster.
Oh, to say the least. You know, I think there's, well, man, I to broadly put it, yeah, it has been a really horrible week, and it's also been encouraging. And I think a lot of that comes specifically from Erica Kirk. It was just announced today that she's going to be the CEO and chair of the board at Turning Point. And to be honest with you, I think myself, and I think I speak for everybody in the Turning Point family, you know, despite the horrific circumstances in which that had to happen, everyone is excited for her leadership. You know, on Friday last week, when it was announced that she was going to be doing a press conference, I turned to my wife and said, "Holy cow! That is just from a time perspective. This happened Wednesday, and on Friday, she's standing up there like a brick wall, delivering an eloquent message to everybody who needed to hear it." And I told my wife, I don't think I could have done that. And so the announcement today is, again, wish it was under better circumstances. But the Turning Point family is rallying behind her, and we think it's going to be a great addition to the leadership over there.
Yeah, and you know, I thank you for mentioning that today the Turning Point did post and announce that she is the new CEO. And I got to tell you, I agree with you. After watching Friday night's address that she made, you're like, okay, there's a lot of strength behind that pretty face and what she's going to do. I think the enemy is going to regret whatever he did to Charlie Kirk, because she, as she has said, you unleashed something greater, an awakening giant. To see that, let me show you this. It's number one, guys. You posted a video on social media about "Here I Am." I want our folks to watch it. Watch.
Charlie would often wear these very plain t-shirts with verbiage on them, but there was one shirt that stood out to me, and it simply said, "Here I am." It expressed his openness to his Lord and Savior. "Here I am, God, use me to your will. Here I am, let me go out and further the kingdom of God. Here I am, I will make disciples and send them out to do your bidding." It also displayed what he was on the college campuses. "Here I am, debate me. Let's fight in the marketplace of free ideas. Let's fight through discussion, not through violence, not through physicality, through words," which is exactly what this country was built on. "Here I am" was to Charlie what he was doing. Because of Charlie, I think we can all agree that "here I am" is now "here we are." God bless you all. God bless Charlie. And God bless America. Thank you. Thank you.
Wow, what words. Here I am. Here I am. Let me ask you, Joe Bob, where do you think, what's something that you knew about Charlie that perhaps most of the viewing public tonight that's watching, they don't know?
Yeah, well, first of all, I appreciate you playing that video. That was, it's been amazing to see the response. That was at a vigil in California, of all places, where sanity usually goes to die. Thousands of people gathered to pay their respects to Charlie. I remember thinking about that event, thinking, you know, what am I going to say? Like, what do you say in this particular situation? And I remember the first time I saw him wear that shirt, I texted him and I was like, that's a great shirt. And then I texted his assistant, Mikey, who some of you may be familiar of, and said, I need that shirt. And I'll tell you, Gene, the text I got back was all caps, limited edition. In other words, I can't get it because it was sold out. And to this day, I still have not been able to get that shirt because it's sold out. And while, you know, I would love to have the shirt myself, it is heartening to know that so many people understood that message that Charlie stood for and wanted to show it on their clothing. And so while I still don't have the shirt, I'm excited that people were able to respond to the message. One of the things I think, though, that to answer your question, that Charlie, not a lot of people knew about Charlie, and I'm starting to learn this now as I'm kind of posting videos of reminiscing of us. He loved to laugh. I kind of knew that, you know, being around him, there's, you know, jokes are flying around, just hanging out, a couple of guys. And that's not like a new thing that I knew, but in so many of the comments that I would scroll through on social media of these clips of us just cracking jokes around a table, or him, you know, being a smart aleck before we go on some sort of live stream, people were like, I never saw this side of him before. And that makes sense. Like, if you're kind of tangentially related to the whole political thing, sometimes you see his videos, sometimes you're not. A lot of them are, you know, serious discussions about policy and culture. And not a lot of times is he joking and laughing. And so one of the things that I think, one, humanizes people, but two, people don't necessarily know about folks, you know, in our line of work is like to have fun too. Charlie liked to have fun just like everybody else. And I think it is good for people to know, just in terms of humanizing people, that the guy loved to laugh. He would make really funny jokes sometimes that sometimes would go over people's head because they weren't expecting it to come out of such a serious, you know, political commentator. But that's what I think I would like everybody to know about him, that he loved to laugh. He loved humor. He liked comedy. I toured with him for 3 years. I would go up and do 5 minutes of stand-up comedy to kind of loosen up the audience, because, you know, he recognized in himself that, well, the audience sometimes doesn't get my jokes because they're not prepared for it. And that's, you know, kind of why I was on the road with them to begin with.
Well, it's good insight there. Let me show this clip. This is from the Charlie Kirk show. Chief of Staff Mikey McCoy has this to say about Erica Kirk.
I was telling you earlier with Erica that for the first time, I got a little emotional 2 days ago, because for the first time when I was talking to her about where the organization's going, how we're going to continue Charlie's legacy, how we're going to really 10x this organization to become what Charlie inevitably wanted it to become. I hearing her thoughts and the way she was talking and breaking things down, I felt like for the first time I was speaking to Charlie for the first time again. And he told her everything. Private conversations, everything he was shared with Erica. She knew everything. And from the way she texts to the way she talks. And I can confidently say that I feel like it's Charlie still leading this organization. Mm-hmm. And we just announced it, that Erica's going to be the chief executive officer of Turning Point USA. And for the operators, for the people that helped run this organization with Charlie, we know exactly what he wanted in his meetings, what his vision was, his push. And the event coming on Sunday, we all just keep sending quotes to each other. More people, make it bigger. Oh. And he's ingrained in us. He's still there. And it's just like every difficult situation, every hard trial that comes up, it's almost like we have a blueprint that Charlie's just embedded into our minds.
Well, that's good to hear. Good to hear. Good to see. Let me bring in Luke Ball, political strategist. Luke, you've been listening to Behind the Scenes here with Joe Bob and what's happening there at Turning Point. I haven't talked to you recently. Luke, it's a bit, I don't want to say phenomenon because that doesn't seem to be a right word to say. I did not expect this kind of response from the world about Charlie Kirk's assassination. Does this surprise you at all?
Well, I just have been running around Washington, D.C. all day long. It's been a very busy day, but just about every interaction I have had, whether it be media or I just came from my church group that meets on Thursday nights, Charlie's name has come up. And it has come up often in the context of glorifying God and his ministry and the way that he was reaching out to people here. One of my friends put it this way: it was his worldview that laid the foundation for everything that he did. And politics was always the how of the ministry. The why was his foundation in worldview, and that was the gospel. So I've just been so deeply encouraged that this horrible tragedy was meant to try to silence Charlie. And now it has created this brush fire across the nation, across the world, and it's going to become something larger than ever before. And I'm so encouraged to see that Charlie Kirk's wife is going to be taking the mantle, because when two people come together, that creates one being. And I do truly believe that she is going to be able to speak to the vision that Charlie had for this and lead Turning Point into something bigger and greater than maybe it ever could have been, just because evil forces wanted to silence it, but rather they have spurned it across the world.
I agree. And I in the little bit that I got to know Erica, I think she's the real power. I think we're just about to see real power.
Aren't all our wives the real power behind everything that we do?
Yeah. You're laughing there, Joe Bob. Do you agree with that statement?
Oh, yeah, that's the same in my house, and I'm sure it's the same in yours. My wife is the one that has the power, wields the power in the household. But I think, echoing kind of what Luke said towards the end there, the Bible says two become one, and that I think is exemplified fantastically in Charlie and Erica. I think Mikey put it great, that you hear him constantly and what he would say, what he would do. And I think Erica is going to be a great leader for the organization. One of the things too, though, I think that was such a great dynamic between those two is, Charlie likes facts. Charlie likes facts and statistics, and sometimes it wasn't exactly the nicest facts. Obviously, there were still facts, but I'm picturing in my head them at the Young Women's Leadership Summit, and Charlie listed out a statistic that was 100% true, but you could kind of see the audience go, this is an uncomfortable truth. And Erica would so great, gently just say, okay, but we can also look at it this way, and we can see this in a different way. And all that's to say is that Erica and Charlie, I think, melded together to become one exactly the way they were supposed to. So again, it just makes a natural fit that Erica would take over. And like Mikey said, I think, regardless of how much time passes, Charlie's always going to be in people's ears of how he would do things, the tenacity at which he would attack certain tasks. It's right. It's never going to fade.
No, it's not. We have been saying here for years, elections have consequences, and we've seen the bad consequences and the good ones. What I have not seen is with Charlie's assassination is how it's affected other media. In fact, let me show you this. This is clip number 3, guys. Greg Gutfeld, he goes off on Jessica Tarloff. Watch.
For one thing, there is no cognitive dissonance on our side. On your side, you're beliefs do not match reality. So you're coming up with these rationalizations like, what about this? Or what about that? We're not doing that because we saw it happen. We saw a young, bright man assassinated, and we know who did it. We are not coming up with rationalizations. We are calm. We are honest, and we are resolute. We're not defensive, and I understand the defensiveness. I understand why people are saying, what about this and what about this? Because if you have to face the underlying fact to this, your life is going to fall apart because you're going to realize you're not the good guys. If you sat around and you defended the mutilation of children, you're not the good guys. If you sat 600, 700 cases of harassment against Republicans and you said, but what about this? What about this? And then you see this murder after calling somebody a fascist, you realize maybe I'm not the good guy. That is a hell of a realization to deal with. So therefore, you have to grasp at rationalizations. You don't have to do that, Jessica. They do. I don't believe you're part of that group, but why the hell do you have to mimic and echo that crap to us? He was a patsy. That guy was a patsy. He was under the hypnotic spell of a direct-to-consumer nihilism, the trans cult, and you know that. If you can decide that biology is false, you can agree that murder is okay and that humanity is expendable. How you cannot see that alone and see that for what the evil it is without having to attach all of these other things is beyond me.
I just want to be clear, and I want to let people speak. I in no way intended at all to minimize what happened to Charlie. I was horrified by it. I have not been on the five
but
since
the two sides argument, it's like pig Latin to a duck.
No. All that I was saying is could we have all of the information before you just say they did this? Because that is a broad brush to paint with this. And this kid
Let's have a conversation.
No.
Charlie had a conversation. He got shot. Look, I'm sorry, Jessica. I'm sorry. I'm sorry. You weren't here for a week. You came in here and it's cold. And I'm sorry, but this is a story that is immune to news cycles. It's immune to rationalizations. It's immune to bias. This thing is with us for good. And we all have to deal with that. So that means we can't live by the same arguments that you might be reading about relativism among the media. We can't deal with those stories. It doesn't matter. The media is dead to us on the story. They built this thing up. We're dealing with it. We're going to act. We don't care what the whataboutism is anymore.
All right. So Luke, I'll go to you first. The quote that Greg Gutfeld was passionate. When was the last time you saw someone on network news, even Fox News, be this passionate about, his comment about Charlie had a conversation and got shot? That there's more to this than just, you're not able, if you're in the media, to just kind of waffle through this story. You can't do that anymore. People, the American public is demanding, they're demanding a side, one or the other. I'm going to show you the other side, but I want to hear your thoughts as you're seeing Greg Gutfeld there, Luke Ball.
Well, first, jealously, I'm a little bummed out. I'll never be that great. Like that was quite the riff, and I think he put his pulse on the thing that we've been dealing with in the media over the last couple of days. I had a debate today, and the premise of the other side's argument is that we did not know what the shooter's motivations were, that they did not actually adhere to Democrat or leftist ideology, and that we did not know what the true underlying reason or motivation was. And I think the key phrase in there was direct to consumer nihilism. And that is the key issue. That is the key problem, because the both sides argument might work if your political adversary is Mother Goose. But our adversary here is not that. It is a leftist ideology that has permeated for years and has called us racist and fascist and literally Hitler and a threat to democracy. And in 2016, it might have sounded like cute. They said deplorables. And then got a little sharper in 2024 when they called us garbage. And now day after day, we are a threat to democracy and Nazis. And what do you do to those type of people? But you have this vitriol uprising in your spirit if you're listening to that type of mentality and you want to lash out in violence against individuals. And that is deeply, deeply troubling to the state of affairs in our nation, because Charlie would go around and he might upset people with a leftist ideology with a debate because he proved them wrong. But afterwards, he would be willing to reach across the aisle and shake their hand and continue that conversation with other individuals as they would come up. But the left had to shut him down and shut him up because they couldn't contend with that type of argument. And whenever the debate is lost, Socrates said that slander becomes the tool of the loser. But in today's environment, when the left has lost the debate, and they have, Gene, violence has become their tool.
Joe Bob, I want you to weigh in on there. Violence has become their tool. You agree with that?
Yeah, and to kind of further the point of, well, we don't know all of the things that the shooter. Okay, so let's just take that out of it entirely. Just from a culture perspective, let's take that out entirely. We all witnessed a huge percentage or a big population of people online celebrating a murder and an assassination of Charlie Kirk. Remove any of the quote unquote motives that we don't know from the shooter. And again, I'm using that sarcastically because it only one of the three blind mice couldn't see what was going on there. But if you remove that entirely, we still have a very concerningly high amount of people who lean left who are saying, well, this is totally fine and celebrating in the streets. Now, the one thing that I do think is really needs to be pinned down is the language that people use when they talk about these sorts of things. Luke was talking about, they're calling us in escalating terms. They all of a sudden have gotten to fascist and Nazi and all that sort of stuff. But I think the pushback from the libs now is that, well, President Trump said the far left is responsible. Yes, he used the language far left in a precise way. It is the far left. Remember back when President Biden was in office and he gave that super creepy speech in front of the halls of Philadelphia or wherever he was with the red background, he said, MAGA Republicans are an existential threat to the United States of America. Notice how the far left is what it is. It's the far left. We're not talking about your neighbor across the street who disagrees with you on policy, but hey, they're still a good person. They're still a Democrat, and that's fine. We're talking about the far left, and we are using that language. On the other side, you have President Biden saying MAGA Republicans, which the last time I checked is anybody who voted for Donald Trump, which is the majority of the country. If you demonize the normal side of the political spectrum, you're unfortunately going to only lead to this sorts of situation. We are precise in our language, which is something that Charlie told me specifically offhandedly. Hey, be precise when you're going out there and talking. And that's exactly what we're seeing now. The left is not precise. They're irresponsible with language. And unfortunately, it results in horrible outcomes.
Yeah, so true. Speaking of horrible outcomes, Jimmy Kimmel, he's not having a good week. Watch.
We hit some new lows over the weekend with the MAGA gang desperately trying to characterize this kid who murdered Charlie Kirk as anything other than one of them and doing everything they can to score political points from it. In between the finger pointing, there was grieving. On Friday, the White House flew the flags at half staff, which got some criticism. But on a human level, you can see how hard the president is taking this.
My condolences on the loss of your friend Charlie Kirk. May I ask, sir, personally, how are you holding up over the last day and a half, sir?
I think very good. And by the way, right there, you see all the trucks? They've just started construction of the new ballroom for the White House, which is something they've been trying to get, as you know, for about 150 years. And it's going to be a beauty.
Yes. He's at the fourth stage of grief, construction. Demolition, construction. This is not how an adult grieves the murder of someone he called a friend. This is how a 4-year-old mourns a goldfish.
Did not work out too well for Charlie Luke. The show's been suspended. I'm impressed. ABC actually stood for something.
Well, I think it probably also had to do with the fact that they probably weren't having the best ratings with him. And in addition to that, without getting too in the weeds on this, the FCC chair Brandon Carr was kind of hitting the nail on the head on this earlier. The ABC gets very special broadcast permissions and broadcast rights whenever they are distributing to all of their different channels, and it must be in the best interest or the prevailing interest of the public. I forget the specific language, but one of the reasons that it was yanked is because he was also out there peddling conspiracy theories, trying to say that we were out there saying everything we possibly could to try to disassociate ourselves from the shooter, because Kimmel was implying or outright explicitly saying, depending on how you take his verbiage, that the shooter was MAGA, that the shooter was conservative. And that has been the underlying tone of all of the leftist arguments over the last few days. He just kind of came out and said it more explicitly, which is a conspiracy theory. And, Gene, we really don't give the left enough credit sometimes with the wild conspiracy theories. Like, you have to give them credit. Like, the imaginations with which they come up with conspiracy theories is kind of unparalleled, between all of the things they made up about the president with the Russia hoax and the Ukraine impeachment and all of the other things, to even this sick example. They will take something and run with it, whether they have validity on it or not. And so now that he has been taken off of the air, their underlying argument now is, oh, it's a free speech issue. It's not a free speech issue. It is a business decision. It is an example of somebody who was failing in the first place, and now they have taken him off the air because the distributors don't think it's in the best public interest of their viewership to continue to allow him on. And if they were raking in money and they were actually enjoying success from his show, I guarantee you they would have found a way to keep him on there, but they wouldn't do that. And there's so many different caveats and points to go down with this, but the bottom line is, he was not doing well in the first place. He was spreading garbage, and I think that he was coming up against the wall to begin with anyway.
Well, and you're right. Broadcast television is about the numbers. If the numbers aren't there, then you're out. So you're right. They probably had a great opportunity. He gave it to them. Pierce Morgan, who I rarely agree with, said this: Jimmy Kimmel lied about Charlie Kirk's assassin being MAGA. This caused understandable outrage all over America, prompted TV station owners to say they wouldn't air him. There it is. And he's now been suspended by his employers. Why is he being heralded as some kind of free speech martyr, Joe Bob? Why is that? It's a good question.
Yeah, I don't at all want to be critical of the show here, but our show, we only showed the first 12 seconds of that, where he does the thing that is actually making everybody upset. The joke afterward is a joke, but the libs are trying to say, well, they're making fun of President Trump, that's why he got kicked off. Nope, it's the first 12 seconds where he says, well, the shooter is clearly a Charlie Kirk fan, and says it in a pompous and arrogant, smug way that, of course, we of course all know that. Now, without getting into the weeds of how public broadcasts work, there's two companies, Sinclair and Nexstar, who have a lot of public broadcasting license rights in the middle of America. In other words, Trump country. They were the first ones to say, hey, our viewers are not liking this. We don't approve of what this guy is saying, and therefore we are going to take him down off of our specific licensed broadcast networks, which then prompted ABC/Disney to say, we got to hold back on this. Now, the narrative from the left obviously is, well, it's the FCC chair who is threatening them. Okay, well, you can't make an argument based on, well, they might threaten to pull their license, because the reality is they didn't pull their licenses. The company made the decision before that even had to happen. And two, let's just go down that rabbit hole just a little bit further. Let's just say, hypothetically, the president and the FCC actually does yank the broadcasting licenses from those organizations. You don't think for a second that ABC Disney can find some federal judge somewhere to block President Trump, which is what they've been doing with everything he's been trying to do? The whole thing is a farce. It's not a free speech issue. It's not the federal government threatening Jimmy Kimmel for the words that he says, the jokes that he's making. It's the middle of the country, Trump country, saying to their providers of entertainment, hey, we don't like this sort of stuff. And in return, the money, you could trace the money all the way back. He's lost 60% of his viewership in the last 10 years, and that's why they're pulling him off the air. The whole idea of cancel culture censorship is nonsense.
No, I agree, and it's all about the numbers. So we're going to continue to watch it. However, I'm still celebrating that happened, because it needed to happen. All right, we're going to take a break. We come back. things didn't work out so well for one person who endorsed another person thinking they would get an endorsement back. Talking about New York, Kathy Hochul. Liz Joy joins us after the break.
When you show up in FlashPoint gear, you're more than a fan. You're part of the Army. Rep the voices you trust and the truth you believe in.
FlashPointStore.com has new merchandise.
Gear that sparks a conversation. Let the world know you're standing strong, always to the right of center.
Make sure you wear FlashPoint. Always show your colors.
Shop the collection now at FlashPointStore.com. Don't just blend in. Stand out. Be part of the Army.
The War Room is calling. Join the FlashPoint War Room, a powerful community of believers standing together in prayer, unity, and bold support. Get exclusive updates on what God is doing right now through this movement. Stand in faith, stand for truth, and stand with FlashPoint as we press into what God is doing in this season. Whether you're a pastor, intercessor, or a passionate viewer, this is your call to action. Go to fparmy.com and join the War Room today.
FlashPoint Live is coming to Crown Point, Indiana, October 2nd and 3rd. Join host Gene Bailey at Livingstone's Church for 2 nights of bold voices and unshakable truth. He'll be joined by Pastor Ron Johnson, Lieutenant Governor of Indiana Micah Beckwith, Hank Kuhneman, James Ward, Rick Green, and Lucas Miles. Register for this for free at fparmy.com/Indiana. It's time to take a stand and make your voice count.
Welcome back to the second half. You heard it. We're coming to Crown Point, Indiana, October 2 and 3. Want to see you there at Livingstone's Church, just south of Chicago. Ron Johnson, Lieutenant Governor Micah Beckwith, Hank Kuhneman, James Ward, Rick Green, Lucas Miles, Turning Point Faith. And then on the second night, worship with Sean Foyt. The whole band will join us for a very special worship night. I'm calling worship night. Not the only thing that'll happen, but it's a big chunk of it. We're going to come together with Sean as he leads us and have a good time together. I'd love to see you there. Just go to fparmy.com/events and click on Indiana and sign up, register to be there. Free event. We would love to see you there. Again, I want to say to those watching on Victory Channel, Spectrum, if you're on Spectrum Cable on Victory Channel, your programming will end on Saturday, September 20th. Make sure you go to our website, fparmy.com/media, for all the ways to watch. You can watch it there and become a fan of the FlashPoint Television Network as we continue to expand, add programming. We just recently, this week, added the Roku channel has shifted over to the FlashPoint Television Network. The merger with Integrity TV is done. We are now everywhere, FlashPoint Television Network. And you can see us there. We'd love to see you on all of the places. We're adding stations, networks on the call yesterday, expanding and looking forward to taking over the airwaves as we continue to see what God's doing through you and through FlashPoint. I do want to say, if you missed Winsome Sears this week, you need to go back on the YouTube page and go find that interview with Virginia's governor-elect that we are wanting you to elect. I can say that. I want you to vote for Winsome Sears. If you have an ounce of conservative bone in your body, their choice is plain, Winsome Sears. Go back and watch the interview. You'll see her take some questions and give you an idea of who she really is. But tomorrow, Friday the 19th, early voting starts. You go, wow, we're already in early voting. Yes, early voting starts tomorrow in the state of Virginia, Friday the 19th. So I want to see you there. All right. Welcome, Liz Joy. Liz, you've been back there in your state of New York. I know you probably saw this clip, but I've just got to show it to you one more time of what happened with Kathy Hochul. She endorsed somebody, and he didn't endorse her back. Watch.
It just goes to show how poorly Kathy Hochul. She is so bad with her political instincts. She didn't get a counter endorsement from him.
That's right.
Yeah, she's like, I endorse him, even though we have disagreements. And they're like, Zoran, do you endorse the governor? He's like, no, absolutely not. Gross.
Okay, so Liz, I mean, this is like, and I'm going to go to Luke because he's the political strategist. That's his job. I mean, this is a massive mistake here. Forget, I mean, talking about to her political career, you do something and then you don't get it back. But this is Kathy Hochul. I think she's really showing her true colors. Or am I getting that wrong, Liz?
Well, here's what's going on here in New York. I mean, Kathy Hochul needs Mamdani's supporters. She needs his supporters. He really doesn't need a lot of her supporters. He doesn't want, he thinks that Kathy Hochul is too moderate, if you can even believe that. But she is desperate. She needs to have his supporters. And, you know, I want to say something that was really important that actually came out today, and that is the New York State Democratic Chairman, Jay Jacobs, for the entire state. He refused to endorse Mamdani. And it is now causing friction between Kathy Hochul and the state Democratic chairman. The chairman said, Mamdani is too far left. I don't agree with his socialist ideas. I don't agree with where Mamdani stands on Israel. And he will not endorse him. It has caused incredible friction. It really was seen in some ways as him scolding Kathy Hochul for endorsing Mamdani. And now she wants Mamdani to endorse back. I do think probably if he wins this race in November, it looks like he's going to, then once he's in there, he most likely will come out for her for 2026 and bring all of the young voters that he has. And, you know, I will say Mamdani, you know, what we've seen with Charlie Kirk, which has been extraordinary, the young people, the support, the outpouring of people that Charlie Kirk reached with his truth and his faith and his freedom. Mamdani is the exact opposite. And he has reached the exact opposite audience of people that are endorsing Mamdani because of his socialism. He is anti-Semitic. He wants to take over the grocery stores. He's anti-police, and he wants rent control. So this is the exact opposite of what Charlie Kirk stood for, and yet Mamdani has a lot of those young 20s and 30s because they can't afford New York City, and he is telling them that he's going to give them all the housing, all of the food. He's making promises. So we're in trouble.
Yeah, Luke, Mamdani, I mean, he's in the 40s on his percentage points. What would you have told Kathy Hochul when she didn't get her endorsement returned?
Well, the Democrats have done this to themselves. And drawing on my chicken knowledge, the hens have allowed the fox to come into the hen house, and that fox is not leaving without its belly full. Unfortunately for the left in New York City, they are embracing this, whether they are endorsing him or not, unless they are actively speaking out against Mamdani and the things that he stands for, they are endorsing it. And this is the direction the party is going. This is where the energy is. The leader of the Democrats is Mamdani. It's Jasmine Crockett. It's a handful of other loud wackadoodles on the far left that have all the energy of the party because the moderates aren't standing up and catching all the energy. They're not the ones who are leading the party or defining how that party goes. It's the ones who are on the far socialist left that are capturing all of the energy and marching forward. And as goes New York, so goes the rest of the nation. As California goes, so goes the rest of the nation. They are petri dishes for the left's dream of America. And right now, they're about 2 elections away from strapping Karl Marx to a defibrillator, waking him up and running him at the top of a ballot. That's the area they're heading towards. That's the direction they're going. This guy is not an outlier. So they get a choice right now. Do they go the party of JFK or do they go the party of USSR? Because if they're just being quiet about it and not trying to like do anything or give giving these endorsements, hoping that they might get an endorsement back, they're going to wake up one day and realize their party is gone, and they are directly responsible for it.
All right, Joe Bob, what do you think? I liked that was really good, especially the chicken reference. Way to go, Luke. Joe Bob, I want to get your take here. I mean, Mamdani, is it really an age thing? Is that where it breaks down? Because anybody with a right mind would know government-run grocery stores you want to endorse something that's not going to work, get the government involved in a grocery store. I mean, come on. This is crazy. This has never worked, and they keep trying it. Countries have tried it. It just doesn't work. But let me get your take, Joe Bob. What do you think?
Well, I'm not sure if I'm the only one here who's not surprised on the endorsement controversy. That kind of seems par for the course for a socialist. All of the consumption, none of the output. I think I don't know why Kathy Hochul's team didn't think that, but it doesn't seem surprising to me at all. In regards to Mamdani overall, he unfortunately has whatever that charismatic feature, that intangible thing that Barack Obama had. In a way, he's got the same thing that Trump kind of has. Because you got to remember, President Trump is a billionaire that for some reason can connect on a granular level with working class America. That is a charismatic gift. You could call it a skill, talent, whatever you want to call it. It's just there, and unfortunately, Mamdani has it. But Luke also put out a good point, and I don't know if this is necessarily the opposite opinion, but we are petri dishes. We are laboratories of democracy, and in a certain way, while I don't want to see New York go under, because I love New York City, there is a benefit to having someone like Mamdani take over a big city and have the entire country, not only the entire country, the entire world see how bad things can be if they go in that direction. Now, that doesn't mean that everybody will just notice. That requires and necessitates the conservatives putting out the message adequately, clearly, and to as many people as possible. But also, if it seems to be the case and the polling seems to be right that Mamdani's going to win here in November, it then becomes our goal or our job to make sure that everybody sees how bad of a situation New York has put themselves in and make sure that nobody else does that to themselves around the country.
All right. So, Liz, let me ask you a question. How did it get to this place that New Yorkers actually are 45% behind him? How'd that happen?
Well, I think it's because we have been under such horrible leadership in New York City, the mayoral leadership, as well as previous governors, Hochul now, Cuomo before that. We've been under such poor leadership that after Governor Cuomo stepped down, and we thought, people thought, maybe we have a chance with Hochul. Maybe she'll be a little bit better. She was worse, absolutely worse. Now to Joe Bob's point, you have somebody who's come in that's very charismatic, knows how to cloak all of his stances with charismatic rhetoric, speaking directly to the voters in New York City, making promises of everything that they want, right? They want more food. They want he's saying it's going to be affordable. They want, the housing. They want, everything to be free because it is so expensive because of the leadership we've had. Hochul and Cuomo created this opening for Mamdani to walk right in. And think about this. New Yorkers despise Andrew Cuomo so much. They're willing to vote for Mamdani, who's making all of these promises, and they are going to be shocked when, in fact, he gets into office. Our taxes skyrocket, our economy tanks, businesses will flee, police officers will leave because he's anti-police. And never forget that we are the largest population of Jews in New York outside of Israel. We are in for a big shock, and it's because we've been under such horrible leadership. It left a wide open gap for Mamdani to walk right in and get to all of the young people, all of the younger, voters who want to listen to those promises, but aren't really doing the research on what his stances are.
Yeah. All right, Luke, but let's look at this compared to the Jimmy Kimmel ABC fiasco. We know that numbers drive broadcast television, and when it's not working, it's not working. and they capitalized on that. When it's not working for businessmen in New York City, no matter who they are, they're going to leave. I mean, when you get this type of crazy state tax and you got to cover this, they're already talking about leaving. Some companies are already saying, hey, this happens, I'm out of here. Listen, we learned one thing from COVID in New York. People will shutter and go away. They're not going to just sit there and take it.
And the states that actually embraced freedom, the states that actually embraced reality and capitalism and all of these other things benefited greatly from it, like Florida and Texas and a handful of other states. I mean, my hometown in North Carolina, in Wilmington, was, I believe, the 5th most moved to city in the United States during COVID. And the vast majority came from New York State down to North Carolina. Now, I hope all of them left their ridiculous politics up there in New York, but I'm not quite sure about that. We have a very purple state sometimes, and the elections go all over the place. But when you start to look at exactly what makes the clock tick in New York, it is that business success. And people get kind of fat and lazy. They get content, and they start to become disillusioned and forget exactly where that success came from and why it's a major and one of the greatest cities in the world. And it is the underlying thing of capitalism and business and science and smartness that actually makes the thing run. And they just completely abandon it and run the opposite direction, thinking that they're going to get all of these handouts. So maybe it looks good at the very beginning, because every Ponzi scheme looks great at the beginning. Everyone's getting their payouts up front, but give it a short period of time, you'll start to see that the whole thing collapses in on itself.
Yeah, I think you're right. Well, we're going to continue to watch it and pray for New York. I have a lot of friends in New York. We're praying you guys got to get out, fix this. I don't know what the answer is, but God does. All right, let's move on here in the last 12 minutes of the show. This was interesting. The UK rolls out the red carpet for President Trump. Watch.
No question. I think this is a real statement by the King and by the senior members of the royal family. I mean, it's very rare they all get together like this for a visit by a foreign leader. They're doing it to make a point. I think they recognize the world feels a little bit precarious right now. You have 2 raging wars in Ukraine and in Gaza, and you have a lot of people, particularly since the appalling murder of Charlie Kirk, I think are feeling very tense about the way that issues like free speech are going in the world. And I think that the royal family want to make a statement. They are aligning themselves very publicly today with the President of the United States, who they know actually believes in his heart fundamentally in the principles of free speech, as indeed do they. So I think that this is it's a statement by the royal family. We're going to roll out the ultimate red carpet. And again, just to stress, I've not seen this done for any other world leader. This is unprecedented. And bearing in mind that Donald Trump is getting a second state visit, but the first one was for a different monarch. So nobody has ever, US president or anybody else, has ever had a state visit with 2 different monarchs. So that, again, I think is an important thing to say. Last time it was with Queen Elizabeth. This time it's with her eldest son, King Charles. That is real history. And I keep coming back to how his mother would feel, Donald Trump's mother, Mary, how she would have felt about this, watching her son, just on a human level, having these extraordinary moments with the Queen and then with the King. I mean, really remarkable, I think.
Remarkable indeed, Joe Bob. I mean, that's, I don't know of any president that has done with 2 monarchs like that. That's pretty astounding stuff. What does this mean on the global stage, in your opinion?
Yeah, I think the entire world, the entire Western world, I think for the last several years has been like quietly supporting the United States. And what I mean by that is that when we do something on a big scale, their liberal media, their culture in their country want to have a knee-jerk reaction of, well, the United States did it and this is bad. And therefore, a lot of foreign leaders, especially in Europe, have been timid around President Trump, even though behind the scenes, I can almost guarantee you, they're like, okay, yes, go do this thing in the China Sea. Yes, send weapons to Ukraine so we don't have to. And not to get into the whole Ukraine war and all of the what do's and don'ts in that world. But the bottom line is that anytime the United States does something that may be deemed as quote unquote controversial on the world stage, the chances are the leaders of all of those countries are saying, okay, I have to publicly condemn you because we have to publicly condemn everything that you do. But really, thanks for doing that. Great job. And I think, at least I'd hope, rolling out the red carpet in England for President Trump going there and making a big show of it is actually saying, you know, we've been privately in support of what you're doing, but now we're open about it. Now we are publicly saying, yes, what the United States is doing is good. We're not going to hide anymore. And I hope that that kind of sets the tone for the rest of Europe to finally go, yeah, we've been a little off track the last decade or so, and we need to get back on track. And the only way to do so is open ourselves up to the United States.
All right, Liz Joy, I want to hear what you have to say about that.
Well, I have to tell you, the part that I really loved was how much coverage Princess Catherine and Melania Trump got when they came together, smiling, talking, laughing, and they were with the children. That was something that I thought was a very, very important statement for the world to see. These two mothers who are also, very, very obviously very prominent. You have the First Lady of the United States, you have the next queen, and they were highlighting children, and they were gathered around them, and they were focused on the children, talking to the children. To me, that was something that was very, very important, and it was a statement for the next generation. I loved seeing it. You have young Catherine with Melania Trump and those two moms making a very important statement about how much children matter. That was something that really touched my heart. So I thought it was wonderful.
I agree. I think it was wonderful. And historical, for sure. All right, especially, right, what a comparison, Mondani and then Trump. All right, let me show you this. I talked about Virginia earlier in the show and how important Virginia is in our nation. This governor's race is massive, the importance of it. Why? Because there's people like Abigail Spanberger who says that her priority as governor will be to create a cabinet level, get this, a cabinet level DEI position. Are you kidding me? Watch.
I think that within my administration, a focus on, Northam brought in that position, right? A cabinet level position focused on DEI. And so I think sometimes in the larger, political discussion, it's, what does that mean? Well, what it meant in that administration is that there was someone who was bringing a lens of intentionality and inclusivity and how do we view history here in Virginia and what are some laws that may still be on the books that reflect a different era, that if you have someone looking at them with that level of intentionality, maybe we want to take them off the books. And nobody actually enforces those laws anymore is maybe we want to do a little better than that.
Luke, what is she talking about?
Well, it's not just the DEI issue on its face value. If you listen to the language she used there, she was referring to laws on the books. And the way she framed it is how the leftists will code their version of criminal justice reform, which is allowing criminals to run free, which is allowing laws to be broken all over the place, and essentially creating an environment in the state of Virginia, where I live right now, that is friendly to criminals and hostile to law-abiding citizens. Even an example, here in Washington, D.C., I just found out today that they are working towards, I guess, correcting a law. I don't know if it was a federal bill that was introduced. I think it was something in Congress. But in Washington, D.C., if you are beneath the age of 24 and in that 18 to 24 range, you can still be tried as a juvenile and given that excuse, even though you are a full-blown adult. I mean, that's just a couple of years younger than what I am right now. And the fact that they are coddling individuals, they'll say like, oh, well, the laws are written for a different era or a different time. That is their way of trying to abolish the police, defund the police, hand over the law and order issue to the leftist Marxists who want to completely have anarchy in some cases. And that is a very, very dangerous philosophy to go down. So the way she sugarcoated it and said, well, if you look at it in the perspective of history and you start to examine the intentionality behind it, when I hear Democrats start to add adjectives and action verbs and all of these different superfluous language items onto their things, I start to like dig through the weeds a little bit, like I'm looking for an Easter egg. What are they actually trying to say? What are they trying to mask here? I think that's a very dangerous route to go down.
I think it is too. In fact, let me show you this as we begin to wrap up here. It's just 22 seconds or 39 seconds. This is the other side. The sheriffs actually are endorsing Winsome Sears. Watch.
Hello, everyone. I'm Lieutenant Governor Winsome Earl Sears. I am running for governor of our great Commonwealth of Virginia. I have beside me the sheriffs who have endorsed me. I have had 81 sheriffs, the most of anyone running for governor in all of Virginia history. These great sheriffs are from all across our Commonwealth, and we're so glad to have them because of them, we have law enforcement happening, yes, but we have economic development happening. We have so many opportunities coming to Virginia because job creators know they will be safe, their employees will be safe, their inventories will be safe. God bless all of you.
That's pretty massive endorsement there. Bring you up to speed on that. Joe Bob, what do you think? Virginia, Winsome Sears, Spanberger, what's going to happen?
Well, the First Lady talked about how the prior administration, Ralph Northam's administration, instituted DEI at the highest levels. I'm not sure if she was talking about Ralph Northam doing blackface. I'm not sure if she kind of misunderstood that that's not what that DEI meant. But overall, Winsome Sears is just a great candidate. You saw there with the sheriff's department, especially with the crackdown that's had to go into Washington, D.C. And I understand Washington, D.C. is not Virginia. But I think overall, the country knows, hey, crime is a big problem. So standing there with a bunch of sheriffs is going to be a huge vote getter for regular, everyday people who just don't want to get assaulted in the middle of the street or be a victim of some sort of crime that just happens randomly because you don't have the law enforcement that liberals tend to institute when they go into government office. So overall, Winsome Sears, big fan of her, been a fan for a while and hope she does well.
Amen to that. All right, so coming up this Sunday, the Charlie Kirk Memorial Service. We got the graphic there. It's growing and growing and growing. If you're not going to be there, listen, there are plenty of places to watch or go be a part of a crowd. You can join us right here at FlashPoint Television Network as well. You see fightforcharlie.com right there, but you can also join us here on the network. We will be broadcasting that all of our network and our social media outlets, so you'll be able to watch that service in its entirety right here. All right, so wrap it up. You got 20 seconds, Luke.
I would just say that the outpouring of support that we have seen over the last few days for not just Charlie himself, but also his message should be radically encouraging to all of those who are watching. Don't just sit on the sidelines, get involved and take action to radically transform this country, and let's bring revival back to our nation.
Amen to that. All right, I want special thanks to Liz Joy, Joe Bob, Luke Ball, and all of you for watching Flashpoint tonight. Join us tomorrow night. We're going to have another great program as we head into the weekend. Thank you for being a part of what we do each and every week, every night of the week. Soon to be more and more and more. Thank you for joining us at our events. Make sure you become a part of the Flashpoint Army. All you need to do is go to fparmy.com, fparmy.com, and be a part. And thanks to Joe Bob from Turning Point. We're going to see more of him. Make sure you catch him on Turning Point tonight and all of the different outreaches that they do. Listen, you and I, we've got a long way to go, but together we're going to see change in America. We'll see you tomorrow. So much has happened over the last week and a half, or however long it's been since Charlie Kirk had that fateful day and met assassin's bullet. So you're like thinking, what does this mean to us? And I think it was, I hate to say a rallying cry or a point, maybe it was a turning point or a flash point where we see something's different. Everyone that I've talked to on this show, everyone I've talked to, all of our guests and people just in society are saying, you know, something's different. We feel a different urgency to get things done. We feel a different push, a different importance. We can't wait, guys. We cannot wait to get back to the midterms. And let's don't do that. Let's don't, if anything, what we've seen, what Charlie did, how much impact one man can have when he gets together with some support. So listen, FlashPoint, we are expanding, we're growing. I want to give you the opportunity to be a part. All you need to do is text your dollar amount and the code FLASH 28950, give at fparmy.com/give, or in the mail, FlashPoint, P.O. Box 1, Newark, Texas, 76071. And thank you for being a part. All of you that have given, thank you for being a part of the Army. Thank you for being a part of what FlashPoint is doing. We're going to keep growing.
This is the FlashPoint Television Network.